Hello, I'm Tim Payne, Superintendent of Ephrata School District, and I'm joined by Sarah Vasquez and Greg Becker. And we're here today to talk about the Ephrata teaching and learning model and some of the frameworks and pieces. Both of these teachers have worked within this model in their classrooms before it became, quote, the Ephrata teaching model. And so we're hoping to visit about how it works for kids, how it works for parents, how it works for teachers, and the rest of our staff, and why we're excited about it. And the fact that it's so agile, that it's very 21st century in terms of what we're doing. And whether we're in a COVID time, which isn't ideal, or you're in a post-COVID, the teaching and learning model works on both ends of that. So up here on the whiteboard, I drew a little drawing to get us started with. So really at the heart of it, we have a Chromebook and the associated programs that are on it. We have teaching and staff. The purple line represents they're putting in things into the Chromebook, generally through a Google Classroom, which is one of the programs that are on it. And then the kids and parents work with that. And then kids and parents create content that goes back through that to the teacher and staff. And what's great about that is it works whether a kid's at home or a kid's in the classroom. And we know that a kid in the classroom with an excellent Ephrata teacher utilizing these powerful tools is the best education. So it's teachers plus students plus these tools working together, right, is great education. We know it's not ideal. Before we were actually on camera, we were talking about how, we're COVID, we got distance learning, we got all these different things going on. That's not ideal. We understand that. But what's beautiful about the teaching and learning model that we're using is it is ideal regardless of the circumstances in which we use it in. And so I'm going to give a few moments for Sarah and Greg to talk, and we're just going to sit around and talk about this and then go from there. So either one of you want to say something what you think about? Again, both of you have used the model in your everyday lives, and so what do we think?
So my teaching background includes 13 years at the high school here in Ephrata High School, and teaching a variety of courses in business and multimedia, most recently including web design, yearbook, and graphic design, and photography. And I started using Google Classroom about 4 years ago. I had to check today to see how many, and the beauty of it is that I could go back and look at all the classes that I've had the past 4 years. I can look at the lesson planning that I've done in that time. It syncs to my Google Calendar. Even though my classes were always on a device in person every day, when I made the switch to Google Classroom, I saw there were a lot of tools that benefited me as a teacher, and I think will benefit all our students and staff post-COVID with the tools that it offers. I can look back at all of my lessons. It's an electronic lesson planning tool. I can easily post quick entry tasks or exit tasks and do formative assessments. And instead of tallying I used to have, I wanted to see if the lesson went through that day, and I'd have kids get out a scratch piece of paper, I'd tear paper in half, and I'd have them hand it to me, and then I'd have to tally it and look at it. Google Classroom, I can create a question and see in seconds a chart that pulls, okay, I might need to revisit that lesson tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And like you said earlier, even though I had students on a device every day in class, by training my students to check the classroom for what we're doing each day, if they were gone or going to be gone, it's always there. And it gives them tools to adapt learning to their own needs, which is another term that teachers and students might start hearing, asynchronous learning, which is learning that can be not real time, but adaptable to our students. So if a teacher posts a lesson or a video or a recording of a lesson, the student can pause it, revisit it, rewind it, come back to it, and kind of learn at their own pace. And so it is very challenging to be in a remote learning situation, but I do think that there are a lot of tools that will benefit teachers in the long term.
Yeah, and what was really interesting is, Greg, when we were talking, you were talking about how, the technology tools are here, and now we're a little bit iffy about those tools. So Greg, why don't you tell us a little something about yourself and talk about, what did you mean when you were talking about that it's just this 21st century time is here?
I've been teaching for about 22 years. I started off on the other side of the state. A wonderful woman conned me into coming to this side of the state, and I ended up in Moses Lake for about a decade. And and now finally to Ephrata, our hometown, and really a great community to be in. But you're right. At the beginning of my teaching career, we always would talk about what if all the kids had a computer of their own? What if they had access to the internet wherever they were, and all of these things? And now we kind of are upon that. It's become cost effective to have that, and now it's up to us as teaching professionals to leverage that technology into a powerful learning experience for the kids. And so I learned that early on that efficiency was important. And you, I think, touched on this when you talked about passing out a paper to every kid and then collecting those. Now we've got the ability to electronically poll kids and electronically communicate immediately, to put videos online that they can go back and rewind and see back and forth. I repaired a washer that I could have never fixed by watching a YouTube video. Certainly these student of ours are going to be able to learn about the periodic table or other science things by watching videos and watching me talk about those.
Because you're a middle school science teacher at Ephrata.
That's correct. Yeah, I teach 8th grade science there, and I'll tell you what, it's really that particular age group is really, they're full of energy, they're full of curiosity, and this type of electronic technology can be used in the classroom or at home or anywhere in between. I know COVID-19 is not something that's popular to talk about, but these Google programs really allow us to leverage the best of what technology has to get learning in the classroom or at home or anywhere in between in any of those hybrid plans. So I'm really excited.
So just for the folks watching this, we are going one-to-one, as Mr. Becker just talked about, where every kid's going to have that Google tool. And so we are in that fantastic time. Each kid's going to have that device. So Greg, how are you using that in your classroom this past year or so many years?
Well, I started a few years back when it was kind of in its infancy. The Google Classroom was kind of a novelty. But I found right away that it kept track of all the stuff that I had done, kind of kept an archive, if you will, of quizzes or handouts or other lessons or websites even that I visited. And so I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. And I noticed right away that students that had missed out could always be directed to, go to the Google Classroom and check out what's there. It was probably just this last year where I realized having all students be proficient in Google Classroom was really going to help me with getting my lessons taught and getting greater amounts of homework turned into me, and also tracking with data how they're doing through Google Forms.
So was it easier? I'm going to interrupt you really quick. We're running short on some time here. But was it for you as a teacher, was it easier or more difficult? And then I'm going to ask you the same question, Sarah.
Easier or more difficult? There's going to be some front-end work that you have to do to prepare a Google Classroom and to be proficient with using it in the best and most efficient way. After that, you get to reap the benefits, which is going to be enhanced student performance and better data that drives your lessons.
Thanks, Greg. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I have to agree with exactly what Greg said. There's maybe some front end work that a teacher has to do with anything that you are making a change, but that's something that career and technical education teachers are used to. And I mean, any of our teachers, technology keeps moving, and so this tool in the end is a great benefit, and it's worth the time investing in it.
Well, thank you both for joining me today and talking about our teaching and learning model and what you've done with it. And by no means, I understand this isn't the end-all be-all. It's a quick 10 or 11 minutes about what the tool can do and what it can do for our kids, regardless of where they're at. But thank you. Stay tuned. We'll get some more information on how we're utilizing this teaching and learning model, what it's going to do for us this fall, 2020, in the midst of a COVID opening. So stay tuned, and maybe another video is coming your way. Thanks.